affordability. I've said this many times. I'll say it again to you here. If the Democrats want to fight the battle on the affordability grounds, bring it on. And I say that for a couple of reasons. First of all, many American people understand now, and many more will before the midterms happen, that the Democrats caused the affordability crisis, full stop. And if you just go and look at, for example, their fiscal irresponsibility and then the Fed accommodating that, that alone was responsible for a lot of the demand side inflation that we observed. Now, at the same time, they created a lot of supply side inflation, meaning that, like, for example, with beef right now, beef is very expensive. Hamburger steak, very expensive. And the Biden regime did stuff like uh, sharply restrict grazing for cattle. What does that do? That restricts the amount of heifers that they'll breed. And it led to, in some cases, early slaughter of the heifers. And that's
Sorry, was
pure.
that excuse me, was that because they limited grazing for greeny reasons? They thought cattle hurt they wanted just wilderness or something?
Yeah, it might be a little fraternity brother gross. Yeah, it's the cow fart thing. It's like the whole
Oh, right.
green thing. It's like it was like the war on beef. I mean, let's the Democrats
Yeah.
they want people to eat soy to save the planet. That was kind of thing. And policies followed from that. And that gets to the point of who was signing those executive orders. I mean, how does that do? But like they took, I think it's something like 25,000 acres of grazing land out, right? And then let's think about this, Miranda. Their whole war on oil and natural gas, right? They're running 75, $80 a barrel of oil during the year. It doesn't just drive up the price of gasoline. It doesn't just drive up the price of heating oil for your home. It drives up the price of food. Why? Because natural gas is one of the most important inputs you have for what? Fertilizer.
Mm.
And then you're trying to transport food, from slaughterhouse to supermarket, right? And it's like gas prices are going up. So my point is back to the affordability battle. Democrats caused the affordability crisis, full stop. And then secondly, I think the polls reflect this. People understand that Donald Trump, even if you criticize him, even if you think he's not doing a good job, you still think the Democrats will do a worse job. That's a really important point. Okay. I mean, let's say Donald Trump has a lower rating on the economy or inflation than he had when he took office, right? That doesn't mean that he's going to lose on that issue if the Democrats have a substantially lower approval rating, which they do. And here's the best thing, it's like by the time we get to November, things are going to be really, really good in this country unless we have some kind of geopolitical shock. Okay, why do I say it? Well, if you look at, I told you earlier, manufacturing is recovering sharply. We are seeing the inflation rate steadily fall down towards the Fed target at 2%. We're seeing the mortgage rates come down and may soon break the 6% threshold, which would open up those markets. In April, we're going to see the biggest tax rebates in American history. People are going to be really, really happy about that. So if they want to argue on affordability and the economy, that might have looked pretty good 2 months ago, but I think by September or October, it's it's not even going to be close. The border is interesting. Um, it's like it was a big issue during the campaign, but the perception now among people is that we solved that problem. So it's not kind of high up on their priorities. what we have to do from a message point of view is make the case that if we don't continue strongly with our deportations, then that will be tremendously harmful to the American people in terms of the kind of crime that they'll be victims of. I did a op-ed the other day which calculated the cost of not deporting the 20 million illegals that came in, and it was a 50,000 body count, essentially 50,000 Americans victimized.
From what?
And what the way you analyze that as an economist is you ask yourself the question, what is likely to happen with 20 million illegal aliens in the country when you add those to the population? You're adding them to the population. We all agree that that happened. Okay. So what you can do is you can go look at the studies that have been done that calculate the percentage of that 20 million which will commit a murder, commit a rape, burglarize your home, get involved in some kind of drug trafficking. And so that's what I did. I did that analysis, and I came up on the order of 800 Americans will likely be murdered if we don't deport those 20 million. 2,000 women will be sexually assaulted if we don't deport. 8,000 homes will be burgled, and something like 20,000. It's just astonishing amount of drug-related, cartel-related crimes will be committed if we don't do that. And
That's a great metric. Did you count welfare fraud?
well, that's look, that's just the crime. Okay, we can go and do all the economics of that. Like the Democrats always argue that the illegals contribute more than they take economically, but the statistics don't really bear that out. I mean, sure, the males come in mostly and they work and they pay taxes and things like that, but you've got them drawing on our hospital systems, our food stamps, or this or that. And it's when you bring in poorly educated illegal immigrants, it's unlikely that they're going to be a net positive economically.
Republicans are also behind the pressure on Donald Trump to and corporate interests to throttle back his deportations. And that's because I think they see illegal migrants as cheap labor. But can you explain that it's not really cheap labor because the taxpayer is subsidizing those companies that are paying these slave wages?
Well, yeah. Well, let's start. Yeah, let's start with the redistributional aspect of illegal immigration, because the people who get hurt the most in this country economically, the Americans, are the lower income blue collar workers who will lose their jobs to illegal aliens and see downward pressure on their wages. Okay, the wages might not go down in absolute terms, but they certainly won't go up. So there's that impact in and of itself. And when you I mean, we saw in the incredible statistics from the government during Biden years, you saw uh, American citizens having a net job loss in the final year of Biden administration. Think about that. Even as the foreigners had a net increase of hundreds and hundreds of thousands of jobs. I mean, that's insanity. So then you've got the whole problem of the chain migration. People come in, the children, the mothers, the grandmothers, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like food stamp city. It's like rent subsidy city. It's like going to the emergency room instead of the hospitals because you don't have insurance. And who pays for that? The federal government. So look, we're a nation of immigrants. But if you're going to have an immigration policy, like countries around the world do, you certainly should have that policy make sure that immigration is a net positive, and not just by a little bit, Miranda, by a lot. But we haven't been doing that, and that's changed with Donald Trump.
Do you think that he will continue, despite all the anti-ICE protests and the sinking of his poll numbers and pressure from people to tell him to take it down a notch and withdrawing from Minnesota?
Interestingly enough, Miranda, the polls I've seen say that the American people, by a significant majority, still support the mass deportations. Full stop. Full stop. The issue now is how those deportations are being handled by ICE, and you have the individual faces problem. You had two people tragically die in Minneapolis. Right? One was a woman who weaponized a vehicle against an ICE agent, okay, and paid the consequences. I mean, it was tragic, but let's not portray her as an innocent victim. She was engaged in an activity designed to provoke. And the other guy, pretty man, I think was his name, pretty. That
Alex
guy,
Pretty.
you looked at his behavior. I mean, that guy was a borderline lunatic. I mean, he was kicking doors and lights and things like that, and he's walking around with a gun, and stuff happens. Okay, it's tragic, but for every one of those, and there's two of them that they're throwing in our face, you got the Lake and Riley
Yeah.
examples, and there's just a bunch of them. And that op-ed I did the other day, names. So they got their victims, but we got a lot more than they do. So it's just a question of getting the messaging right in politics. And the boss says, let's see what happens. But there's no way we're going to stop deporting illegals, and the way the policy's been going, we're targeting the violent criminals first. And who can argue with that?
We're coming close to time, but I didn't want to let you go without just delving a little bit more into your background, your childhood. Are you musical like your dad? Did you take after him in any way?
I'm so pissed off at him, and I didn't really get much of his musical talent. I did play. I was in the Peace Corps. A little more personal stuff. I was in the Peace Corps out in literally in the far reaches boondocks of Thailand, and the teacher training college where I was had a band. It was like a 26-piece band, traveling band. We were like the entertainment for the whole province. We'd go place to place and place and play, and there was like the traditional Thai music that they'd have. Then they'd have the modern time music, which was like an offshoot of like American kind of 50s kind of style music. And then they had a little rock combo band, which I was in, right? And I played rhythm guitar, and
Oh, really?
I just wasn't very good, but they relied on me to like translate the lyrics, teach them the lyrics and stuff like that. But that
And did your dad teach you how to play?
no, my dad ruined my musical career. Like one day he comes home and I'm like 8 years old, and he hands me this book that would probably be like the first year of graduate school at Berkeley School of Music, right? And I'm looking at it, and it's just totally defeated me. So no, the only creative thing I got, and I don't know who I got it from, was like writing stuff like that.
And have you talked to Donald Trump, who's a great music aficionado? Do you talk to him about music at all?
Never. No.
Never.
I
That's
listened
funny.
to his playlist. We've
Yeah,
never had
he
that
played the flute
conversation.
when he was a child.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's genius. I'll have to mention that to him.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Um, And,
Flute.
apparently he's a musical genius. He was tested when he was a child. But so and your mother must have been quite remarkable. As you said, she was working, she was a single mum, and yet you obviously were not goofing off. You were studying hard because you ended up at Harvard doing a PhD. What kind of a child were you? Were you a swot? Were you sporty?
So, when the my parents got divorced, yeah, it was like in elementary school in Palm Beach. You know, they had the private school with rich kids and then the public school for us peon to service the rich and stuff like that. But I think I spent a lot of time at the library reading, and when I wasn't doing that, I was on the ball field. So played them all: football, baseball, uh, basketball. But like the guy I mentioned earlier, Gus Broberg, he's a story in and of himself. He was All American at Dartmouth in basketball and baseball. He signed with the New York Yankees coming out of Dartmouth, but this little pesky thing called World War II got in the way, and he wound up flying fighter jets in the Japanese theater. And on one of those nameless islands out there, he crashed and lost his arm.
Ugh.
And that was the end of his baseball career. Goes to law school, becomes a partner in a law firm down on Fourth Avenue in Palm Beach, and his son, who was I said Peter, his name was Peter too, was my best friend for that brief period of time while I was still in Palm Beach. Um, he actually became a major league pitcher, pitched in the majors for about 10 years. Pete Brover, you look that up. Um, but yeah, it's like sports and reading, and I was always pretty quick in the classroom. I never had to do homework at at night because I did it all while I was in class, kind of stuff like that. It's kind of a stupid thing to do when I think about it, but
And why did you join the Peace Corps?
it was a difficult time in this country. It's the Vietnam era. I got a high lottery number, so I wasn't draft eligible. My brother was in the Navy. I wanted to do two things. I wanted to just do something in the public interest and get out of the country at the time to just get a different worldview of kind of what the world was all about. And I think they say this often that the Peace Corps does more for the volunteer than the people that you serve. I My big accomplishments there, by the way, was I taught kind of that was my day job, but my real passion there was building these big fish ponds. Like I'm not talking about little ponds, I'm talking about big ponds to feed people, right? And so did a little bit of that there and kind of learned about the world from a different point of view. Came back with a worldview to this country rather than just a parochial view. I think Americans sometimes have too parochial a view of things, and it's certainly well in the White House.
And when you were there in Thailand, I think that was when you first noticed the sort of malign influence of China.
Yeah, it's interesting. Thailand has like a holiday every other day. I mean, so I had a lot of chance to travel to some other countries, and there's a gigantic Chinese diaspora around Southeast Asia, where China folks left to the mild starvation, this, that, and the other thing. But a lot of these countries are very, very resentful of the Chinese because the Chinese are able, through their ways, hardworking and other whatever, to gain control of the business apparatus of countries. And they were actually thrown out of Burma um, completely. In Thailand, they were restricted heavily in terms of what kind of occupations they do. So it's like it's all both sides of the fence, but it gives you a kind of a sense of how Asia has all these cross currents and things like that.
Imagine if the enterprise, and energy of the Chinese, uh, people was able to be fully utilized, in their country rather than being under the yoke of the dictatorship.
Yeah, I've always had this belief that the worst thing that can happen to totalitarian countries is to have the smartest and most oppressed people leave, because then there's nobody to fight back. And I think that's been part of the problem in China. The ones who have been able to get out historically have often been the ones who would have been better to have on the inside, um, doing free market stuff. And I mean, the whole thing, Miranda, on a very serious note, the whole idea of getting China into the World Trade Organization was this now quaint belief that from economic prosperity would naturally come democracy. And there's a whole theory on that. That was like the theory of the case for letting China into the WTO. And by the way, it worked with Korea, it worked
Mm,
with Japan. The idea is
yeah.
like as you get a prosperous middle class, and they'll clamor for expression in the political system, and democracy will follow. But with China, just the opposite happened. What they did was establish like this devil's bargain between the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese people that like if you keep your mouth shut and are good boys and girls, we'll make you rich. And because of that, we've got a very, very small handful of inhumane humanity running a country of 1.4 billion people in a godless way, which creates all sorts of problems with morality and ethics.